Sup, ladies and gentlemen, Akulon here, and welcome back to each and one of you. Of course, if you are new to the channel, thank you so much for joining us. I am very happy to have you here. In today's video, we are taking a final look at the Covenants, and I do want to talk a little bit candidly about some of the criticisms, some of the good things that comes from the Covenants, and exactly what I think the future of the Covenants is going to hold. We are less than a week out, most likely when you're watching this video, of the Shadowlands going live. And remember, you can follow me live on Twitch. The link in the description down below if you want to watch us play from the very beginning. This will be on Monday right over on Twitch, or every Sunday right here on YouTube. I cannot wait for the Shadowlands. I am so hyped for the Shadowlands. Alright, so before we get into any discussions about the Covenants and the player power and the individual player power and how it's tied to the Covenants, I do want to make a couple of things clear. Because I feel like a lot of the time it's not said enough. It's definitely not said whenever people are trying to make shock videos or trying to, sort of make an outrage video. And there is a lot of people that seemingly is a little bit confused by this. So before we go any further, let me just clarify something. The Shadowlands is a great expansion. It is an expansion that I, in the beta, have played more of than I've played of the entirety of BFA. I did not enjoy BFA one bit. I do, however, enjoy Shadowlands very much so. The fact of the matter is that the Shadowlands is a perfectly great expansion even as is. Even if the Covenant did not lose their personal player power, it would still be an amazing expansion. The Shadowlands as an expansion stands on its own 2 feet. It offers things that used to be offered in World of Warcraft. There is sort of a throwback to the glory days of World of Warcraft with a lot of the systems and how you interact with them. And then of course there is the new sort of system thing that enhances player power, and that is absolutely something that we are going to be talking about and something that does worry me. But even if Blizzard decided to keep this system all throughout the Shadowlands, I still don't think that it would break the Shadowlands, and the reason for that is actually rather simple. Outside of 2 world quests, your Covenant really doesn't dictate what you do in the game. If you removed the personal player power from these Covenants, they really would only be 2 world quests that you do every single week that gives you 2 levels of renown, and then you move the fuck along and you do whatever it is that you want to do. And if you remember, I have said this before. I've said this multiple times for anyone that's new. I have really said this multiple times. I miss the day. So just a little bit of a personal story here, if you will permit me. I personally think, from a subjective view, not an objective view, that World of Draenor was a better expansion subjectively than Battle for Azeroth. The reason being, I played World of Draenor every single day from launch right up until the time that Legion launched. I logged in every single day. You want to know why? Because in World of Draenor, I could do what I wanted to do. My main thing is I level a character to max level, and then I want to jump into dungeons. So after I've done a bunch of dungeons and I've got the gear, I want to jump into raids, and that really is how I want to play the game. The problem with Legion and also with Battle for Azeroth is that its systems were so intertwined with the rest of the game, and it did sort of force you to do certain things over other things, that it was almost impossible to just level a character and jump into the things that you liked most, because there was this almost checklist of things that had to be finished before you could start doing the things that you actually wanted to do. In the Shadowlands, this is not prevalent. This is not even there. What's that? There's a nicer word for there. This is not even present. See what I did there? This is not even present within the Shadowlands. In the Shadowlands, your Covenant, yes, it gives you player power, but it does not dictate what you need to do in order to gain that player power. It gives you 2 world quests every single week with 2 renown levels. That is it. After you've done those 2, you've done everything you can possibly do in order to increase your player power with your Covenant. After that, The game literally does this, and this is something that I've said for a long time now. Let's go back to what World of Warcraft used to be in Legion and Battle for Azeroth. They would say, right, here's your theme park. We've got roller coasters over there, teacups over there. We've got a bunch of small little rides over there. Enjoy. Oh, but by the way, if you want to go on the roller coaster, you first have to go on the teacups. And before you go on the teacups, you first have to go on the horsies. The horsies, of course, is very boring. But after you've done the horsies, you can do the teacup. Once you've done the teacup, you can go do the roller coaster, but you can't do the roller coaster twice. If you want to do the roller coaster again, you have to go on the swings. After you've done the swings, you have to go back on the teacups, back to the fucking horsies, before you can go on the roller coaster again. So they sort of dictated to you which rides you can go on, you know, depending on the rides that you haven't gone on yet. In the Shadowlands, all of that is gone. Blizzard says, here's your roller coaster, here's your theme park, right? There is 2 rides that you have to go on every single week so that you can remain in the theme park. After that, the theme park is open to you. Go do whatever the hell you want. You don't have to worry, you don't have to stress, just do what you find fun. This I find to be a far better system for alts, a far better system for mains, because ultimately I can do what I want to do in the game. Even the Maw has an internal cooldown that, you know, once you've been in there and you've maxed out your Eye of the Jailer, you're not going to go back there. There is also very limited things that you're going to do in there. So most of the time you're going to go in there, then you're going to go in Torghast, and then you're going to go do dungeons, and you're going to do raids, you're going to do the things that you find most interesting, and even that is weekly. There isn't daily things that you're going to do inside the Maw. Most of it is weekly stuff that you're going to activate within the Maw. So you really only have to choose a specific day and run a bunch of your characters through the Maw, run a bunch of your characters through World Quests, and that is it. That is the end of it. Of course, for those of you that care about reputation and really want to max that out, you're going to do everything every single day, and there is a ton of things to do. There really is an abundance of rides in the Shadowlands. The only difference is you can now ride whatever the hell you want. With that said, however, this is where we get into the downside of the Shadowlands. And I wanted to do all of this before I got into the downsides, because I do want people to understand, even if these downsides stand as they are, the Shadowlands is still an amazing expansion. But in order to showcase what I'm talking about, take a look at these graphs. This is currently, as it stands, the best covenant for each and every class. Now, if you go up, you'll see what is good for healers, you'll see what is good for tanks, and then of course we get to what can only be described as a rather problematic thing. Now, I can already see what Blizzard is trying to work towards, and it would be nice if they can actually manage that. The problem is, I don't think they can. The big issue with the Shadowlands is that it really isn't, or at least these covenants, it really isn't balanceable. There is no way to balance it. And before people go, and I do want to make this so fucking clear, because I can already see in my mind's eye the comments coming. Oh, but this only affects the 1% Accolon. What are you talking about? This is a Preach problem, and those people that play with Preach, why does it even fucking matter? Or the more egotistical comments that say, fuck the 1%. Who cares what the 1% wants? The amount of ego that you need to have, and I want to make this very clear, in order to say fuck another playing member of the game is insane to me. At which point did it become us versus them? Why all of a sudden is the hardcore raiders your enemy? These are people that enjoy the game just as much, if not more, than you do. They play the game for hours on end to master the game. Why are they your enemy? At which point did you decide that your money is better than theirs? So just stop with those fucking comments right off the bat and listen closely. This issue, the player power issue, the covenant issue, is not something that will affect them at all. Hear me out. The top 1% of players do crazy shit all the time. You will undoubtedly see the top level guilds pick up all sorts of crazy covenants, not necessarily the covenants that is best for their DPS, but sometimes you might see an entire guild go Vaynthier for Door of Shadows because a specific boss requires Door of Shadows in order to cheese the the boss. So the top 1% is always going to do crazy shit that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and that's how they try to cheese the boss to get it down, because they are doing it at lower gear. No, the people that will be affected by this, by the Covenant player power, is at least 20 to 30% of the player base. Anyone that has ever tried to get into a pug, anyone that has ever had to link ahead of the curve. Now, I know there's a ton of you that do that because I've seen the fucking forums. You QQ about that shit all the time. You don't want people to ask for your RIO score. You don't want people to ask for your ahead of the curve achievement. And yet you don't think that this is going to impact you? You mark my fucking words, and I will bet you $1,000, 100%. The same person that asked you to link ahead of the curve is the exact same person that's going to look at your covenant and say, wrong covenant, get the fuck out of my group. And you're going to be the guy that QQs on the forums. You can't get a group because everyone thinks you're in the wrong covenant, because you don't want to change your covenant, because you didn't pick the top one. That is the problem with this system. And far more than that, look at mages. Night Fae, Necrolord, Vainthir. This is to raid with. Night Fae, Necrolord, Vainthir. So much for mages being mages and the spec being secondary, which by the way is what Blizzard said at BlizzCon. This means that if you're an arcane mage, you really can't go fire or frost because you'll be in the wrong covenant for fire and frost. And of course, this depends on what exactly the DPS metrics is, but as I've already explained to you, this isn't something that can be balanced. You're not going to be able to balance it. Blizzard won't be able to buff Necrolords so that they're equal to Night Fae, or buff Vainthir so that they're equal to Night Fae and Necrolords, because of how it functions. It's just, there's just too many variables to even try to balance it. One of these three covenants is going to be the best for mages, which means that one of these three mage specs is going to be the best mage spec. And even if you wanted to play a different spec, even if you wanted to change your spec, it's gonna come with a covenant change as well. You're not just gonna be able to change your spec, because as already explained, that same person that asked for your ahead of the curve, that allowed you into the group last week, he's now saying no because you changed to fire and you're Vainthir. And fire really wants Necrolords. Now you can see what Blizzard's ultimate plan is. They do want to align. Hunters, by the way, just a week ago, also looked like mages. You had Night Fae, Necrolords, Vainthir. So Hunters sort of lines up now, Kyrian being the best across the board for Hunters. But as you can see, Kyrian's is sort of good for almost all classes. There's far more Kyrian on here than there is almost any other covenant, which shows that the Kyrian covenant is overpowered at the moment. And this is not a good thing. So do you see why the player power is such a big issue? It doesn't only provide more power to a player who maybe by accident made the right choice. This is going to mean that changing so much as a spec change might require an entire covenant change if you wanted to continue to pug, if you wanted to continue to play with the broader audience of World of Warcraft. At the end of the day, this system as it exists right now is simply not balanceable. It simply will not work. I do think that in 9.1, 9.2, Blizzard will most likely nerf this. Now, as I said in the beginning of this video, it doesn't matter. It's not going to make Shadowlands less fun. Shadowlands is still going to be fun. You're still going to have a ton of fun playing the Shadowlands because there's so much else that is really cool. The only thing that isn't really cool is the fact that as an Affliction Warlock, I need to go fucking Kyrian. Because I am an Affliction Warlock. I love Affliction. But I also like the Destruction, and I also like Demonology. The fuck would I do Kyrian for? Makes no sense, right? A Warlock as a Kyrian? What? How does that even work? Right? So even from a lore perspective, this shit is just all kinds of wrong. And I would be surprised if Blizzard manages to balance this in a 5% increment of itself, even 5% being maybe too large. You need to get into 1 to 2%. The problem is that much of this isn't possible. For instance, a lot of these, like the Kyrian Covenant, for example, it's overpowered because of Pelagos, the Soulbind, not because of the abilities that it gives. In fact, you don't even use your Covenant abilities as a Kyrian. It doesn't matter. All you really care about is Pelagos. That's literally the only reason you pick the Kyrian, is for the Pelagos Soulbind. Can you see how this creates a system that is literally unbalanceable? It is a system filled with downsides, with almost zero upsides. I don't get why Blizzard continues doing this to themselves. I genuinely don't. Why make a system that have every single pitfall that you can imagine in the world and almost zero upsides? Can anyone explain that to me? Because I don't fucking get it. Anyways, if you like this video, if you like videos like this one, remember to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and also smash that bell. Remember, you can follow me live on Twitch, link in the description down below, or every Sunday right here on YouTube. Also, support this channel by going to Patreon, join the members club, or becoming a Twitch sub. Thank you so much to everyone that is already supporting the channel and giving us that freedom from the algorithm to do the things that I love and do the things that we love, and hopefully make better content all round. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the Shadowlands very, very soon. Peace out, fam!